AskReddit by Candid Reading 7267. Meat eaters, what type of meat, if any, is off your menu for ethical reasons? I don't eat pork or any pig meat. I used to work on a farm where I raised pigs. 5 adults and something like 40 piglets. I fell in love with them. I used to just go on my off hours and hang out in the piglet pen. They would just leap all over me and give me kisses. They're massive smart. I can't eat them now any more or less than I don't eat dogs. They're untouchable. There was a runt piglet. I nicknamed him Slayer because he probably shouldn't have survived, but he did. He was hardcore, so I had to give him a hardcore name. He was a runt named Slayer. It perfectly fitted him. I used to raise calves and I've learned that if you socialize a cow, they are the sweetest things. I once had a cow lay down next to me in the grass and put her head on my lap. I don't eat beef now. Any that comes from an endangered animal, for example tiger meat, or any that have abhorrent extraction practices, for example shark fin. I know that the other types of meat I consume do not grow on trees, that something had to die for it to be made available, but there is a difference between killing an animal with a quick pressure gun and cutting off their fin and throwing them back into the sea to die slowly and painfully. I won't eat chili and sea bass for this reason. It's not sustainable. They take 40-50 years to reach sexual maturity, and they reproduce really slow. Primates, cetaceans, brain and lymphatic tissue of any animal, dogs. Brain is definitely on my do not eat list, but for health reasons, not moral. Also the texture. Anything that is cooked alive. For me, anything still alive on my plate. Ortolan. It's not tasty enough to make it worth the torture. Dare I ask what ortolan is? Turtle meat because I like turtles. You're a very scary zombie. Never liked the idea of eating something that was cooked alive. I once ate hagfish in South Korea. They impale the head onto a wooden board, slice it open and rip the skin off, then throw it into spicy sauce and cook it on your table. The whole time it's still wriggling and the cook is poking it back into the pot to make sure it doesn't escape. I'm not eating it again. Cephalopods. Those little suckers are smart, like at least dolphin smart. Thanks bro. Shark fin. The crazy thing about it is that it doesn't even taste good. It's more of a status thing. You could replace the shark fin in the soup with any other meat and it would be much better. Edit. Stop saying shark fin soup tastes good. The fin has no taste. It's bland. And any good flavor you get from the soup comes from the amazing broth that you could get at home or at any ramen shop. Octopus. I'm pretty sure those little homies are semi-sapient. Plus when the space cephalopods show up, I want to be clear-eyed and eat their little cousins. Same. Except that I never worried about space cephalopods. Until now. Long pig. I only understood this joke because back in high school I morbidly wondered what human meat would taste like, so I took to Reddit to find out. A firefighter responded to me and he told me about the long pig translation, and he agreed that responding to certain fires, he could definitely smell what he thought was pork burning in a barbecue. Human. I know, only so much human you can eat before the shakes kick in. Any animal with a name that I know. We raise chickens. Thought we'd wind up eating them after they stopped laying eggs, but my kids named the flock and I couldn't bring myself to do it. I don't eat seafood in general because I have the palate of a child, but I tell myself it's because I don't want to contribute to overfishing. I don't do humans. Their faces are just too realistic. Just ask the chef to cut the head off before serving. Veal. I remember being a kid and my mom made us breaded veal and said it was chicken, and when we finished announced you just ate baby cow, I cried so much lol. Went to family barbecue about 12 years ago. Uncle hunted deer and served venison. My wife, who is now fully vegan, didn't want the venison for ethical reasons, but would eat beef. My mum got a burger for her, and halfway through my wife eating this burger, my mum turned to her and said, "It tastes fine when you think it's beef, doesn't it?" My wife and mum have rarely talked since. Anything estic. It just seems mean. Where I'm from, it's considered a delicacy. I just find it sick and weird. I almost lost my shit when I first came to the UK and found out they have a dish called spotted dick, but I was also relieved when I learned that it doesn't contain any dick. Reminds me of a joke. Forest ranger catches a guy hauling an endangered mountain lion from the woods into his pickup. He stops the guy and the hunter says, "I'm only hunting to feed my family." Ranger then says, "Look, I'm a hunter too. I'm going to let you off with a warning this time. But I'm curious, what do these things taste like?" Hunter says, "Kind of a cross between a bald eagle and white rhino." The word is forest. Why is everyone on Reddit suddenly writing forest? I swear I've seen it 50 times in the past few weeks. Horse. But that's a personal reason, because I've spent most of my life around horses. I don't begrudge anyone who does eat horse meat. It's just something I can't do. Otherwise, I'll eat any meat, but I prefer locally raised, pastured meat, and will happily pay more for meat that is raised ethically and not factory farmed. Edit to add, I would not eat dog or cat either because I see them as companion animals. But again, not going to judge someone who does. When I was in Mongolia, I stayed with a nomadic family for a couple weeks. It wasn't until about a week in that I learned all the meat I had been eating was horse. They let their horses loose during the winter months, and so if they don't think a particular horse will be able to survive the winter, they put it down and then eat it over the winter-spring months. I think it's good that the flesh goes somewhere and that those animals get to live long life beforehand rather than just being raised for meat. Veal. Won't touch it. When I was a kid, in school they showed us a video of how they lock little baby cows in 2 pens so small they can't stand up so that their muscle stays white and tender, and half-starve them to keep them more like baby cows as long as possible to get more meat off them and still be able to claim they are milk-fed veal. There are a lot of critters I won't eat, and most of them are already named in this thread, but veal was my very first visceral "what the hell is wrong with us" reaction, and I've never gotten over that. Octopus. There's no way I'm eating an animal that intelligent that was also given a rough hand by nature as it is. Plus I consider it to be my favorite animal. I've also only eaten octopus twice, and both times it was rubbery and tasteless. It wasn't even worth it. Rough hand? They have active camo and Mr. Fantastic's abilities though. Deleted. Foie gras. The poor duck suffers so much. There's an ethical foie gras farm in Spain that makes foie gras from wild geese, the natural way. They sell their foie gras for something like $200 minus $300 the small jar, 5-10 ounces. Essentially, their geese are allowed to roam the 30-acre farm and eat wild figs and olives, along with numerous plants and herbs. During the full months, the geese will follow their natural instinct and gorge themselves in preparation for migration in winter. This is a natural practice for geese, and they take advantage of this, slaughtering them when they are at their most fattened, without ever employing the technique of gavage. Source: https://medium.com/ethical-age-wer/slash-gur-reality-ord-just-clever-marketing-2deb95805bb6 . Anything you need to cook alive, whether the animal can feel it or not, it just feels so cruel to me. Dogs and cats, probably any common pet. I no longer eat beef. When I was in high school, my boyfriend at the time was a farmer. He introduced me to his cow and I instantly fell in love. I thought it was so cool he had a pet cow, and I volunteered to feed it almost every day and even named it. I thought it was strange he never named his pet. One day, he told me he was taking the cow that I named Bud to fair. Me being 15 and incredibly naive didn't know what that all entailed, so I was all too happy to help out during fair week, feeding, bathing, and giving Bud all of the love and head scratches imaginable. Bud did really well during show, and he told me that he sold him for a high price. Naturally, I was incredibly upset that he sold the cow, but since it was his to begin with, I didn't put up much of a fight. About a month later, we were at his house eating tacos. He asked me if I liked the meat. I was confused, but agreed that it was really good, and that's when he dropped the atomic bomb that I was actually eating my beloved Bud. The person who bought Bud off of my boyfriend shared his meat after butchering. It was like being fed your dog or cat. Every time I think about eating beef, it makes me physically sick. I haven't touched it in 17 years. Deleted. I recently swore off octopus. Having watched the documentary My Octopus Teacher, I came to the full realization of their intelligence, and can not longer, in good conscience, consume them. Bluefin tuna. They are almost all gone. Fishing in general is really fucking up our oceans. So many sea critters killed as collateral in massive industrial fishing operations. I could not eat a small child unless it was with tomato ketchup. If you need condiments, it's either a low quality child or overcooked. Any fish I don't catch myself, because the oceans are being proper fucked by overfishing and there's no sustainability to it. And battery farmed shit, because it's a hellscape. I'm aware there's a massive problem with meat eating in general, both environmentally and morally. I've tried a couple of times to wean myself off it. I'm down to 3 dinners a week instead of every lunch and dinner. And as soon as I can buy lab-grown meat I'll never look back. It's really cool that you're seeing your issues with them and actually smartly weaning down from meat. It seems like a lot of people think it's an all or nothing diet decision, but just cutting down is a great thing to do. I hope you've found some great recipes.